Our HR manager wanted to know which job roles people have. In order to insert this, we click outside the active selections and we insert the job role. I'll do that by creating a table first and then go to the job role in the values. So now we see on the left a list of all the job roles. Now we want to know the values, which are our employee counts. When I drag this in there, I can either click it or I can drag it in there. There's the employee count for everyone. I'll clear this selection and now we see over the entire workforce how many healthcare representatives we have, how many laboratory technicians, how many managers, etc. I'll make this chart element slightly smaller and there we go, it fits in rather well. The question I want to ask to you is how many managers work in Regina? Try to answer the question based on the dashboard that you already have. Pause the video and when you resume it, I'll explain you how I would do it. How I would do it is I would go to Regina, I would click it, you see a new selection and immediately you see that there's one manager working in Regina. I deselect it and I'll ask you a second question. How many women in Canada have a performance rating lower than 3? Now how do you figure this out? Once again, pause the video and when you resume it, I'll show you. When you go to Canada and you want to select only the females, you can easily select this item. However, now you want to know how many people have a performance rating that's lower than 3. The best way to do it is to create a matrix because we want the rows for the employees and the columns, so the columns for the performance ratings. So I click the matrix. For the rows, I go for the employee ID, employee number in the rows, and our performance rating, I put in the columns. And in the values, once again, I go for the employee count. What you see now is that, and I'll make it larger, what you see is that we only have a performance rating of 3 and 4. Look, it's still the selection of 300 people, so it's still only the women in Canada that we have selected in our dataset, and they perform either a 3 or a 4. No one performs lower than a 3. So the only correct answer, look, there's a selection again, females in Canada, 300 females. The only correct answer is there's 0 women in Canada that have a performance rating that's lower than 3. So what I'll do is I'll remove this chart element and we'll go and continue finishing our dashboard. An important element that our HR manager wanted to know was the travel distance. How do we display the travel distance? And there's multiple ways to display this. What I'll do is I'll deselect everything, I'll create a table and I'll split it out on the country. So I go for the country and I go for the travel distance, which is a variable that's called distance from home. I click it and we now see for Canada we have a distance from home that's quite a big number. How do we change this number? We change this number by going to the values, clicking the arrow behind distance from home, and there it says the sum. We don't want the sum, the total travel distance from everyone in Canada. No, we want the average. I click the average and there's an 8.96. So that's an average travel distance of almost 9 miles for the entirety of Canada. Now I deselect the females in Canada, so we have the whole data set. And now you see, and the spacing is a bit awkward, now you see that Canada has an average travel distance of 9.23 miles and the United States has a travel distance of 9.16 miles. So that gives us the overview of the travel distance, and when we now make a selection of a few different cities, we see the travel distance change. For Canada, the city selected in Canada, it's 10.25, And in the United States, it's 7.38 for the Denver, Detroit, and Houston, the cities selected in the US. So that's how you can quickly add a specific element to the dashboard. The final element that our HR manager wanted to see was the performance rating. And performance rating is usually displayed as a single number. So when I select just Denver, I want to know what's the average performance rating for Denver. Now the way I can do this is go to performance rating. It's over here, performance rating, and just selecting it. Now doing this will create a bar chart with performance rating, the sum. I want to work with the average. So now you see that the average in performance rating is something 3.17. But this bar chart doesn't really work. That doesn't fit its purpose. So I want it to display as a normal number. And to do that, I go to card, I click card, and there you have it. The average performance rating is 3.17. I put this element below, because when I now clear the selection, we have a full dashboard that has all the data elements that we want the dashboard to have. However, it doesn't really look good yet. Let's now move towards the visualization part. How do we style this dashboard in a way that makes it look good and that makes it fun to work with, good to look at? The thing is, when things look good, people interact with it more frequently, more often, people like it more. You see that babies interact more with attractive faces compared to non-attractive faces, and that goes all the way through from babies to adults who like fancy things that look good more than fancy things that don't look good, because then usually they're not perceived as being fancy. So how do we tune our dashboard and make it look better? That's the next step, that's the visualization part. First of all, I'll reshape some of the elements. I'll put the performance rating on top. This element will go down, and I'll select the travel distance, and put it over here. I'll first start with renaming some of the variables. Because if I go to the location map, you see employee count by city. If I go to format, I click it and I go to the title, I can change the title and I'll change it in location map. The color, I want it to have a shade of gray, a dark shade of gray. I want it in the middle and I want to have it slightly larger, size 17. The color can be one tint lighter. So location map is now clearly defined. The employee count by gender, it's still in the format tab and in the title. I want this to be called the gender division. I center it in the middle. I take the same color of gray, the same shade, and we'll go to I will make a joke about different shades of gray. I'll make it size 14 and do the exact same for the employee count by country. Make it the division by country. Make it the same shade of gray, the same, I think it was font 14 that we worked with. Let's check it. Yes, text size 14 with the same font. And that looks quite good and it's lined out quite nicely. Now here we see a variable that's called job role. And job role, by right-clicking the variable, we can easily rename it. Let's rename it role. And the employee count, let's just rename that into the count, because we're looking at different counts. That changes the spacing of our table, of our matrix. So that's quite nice. So this way it looks quite good. The next element is country with females, males, and the total. Well, we have the city names. City names we can easily change to locations. There we go. Then we have the average performance rating. Let's change that to performance rating. And now we have a very weirdly spaced element over here with the country and the average distance from home. Let's change the average distance from home to travel distance, And that should also respace everything in a way that looks much nicer. There we go. I'll line this out. This goes from the top to the absolute bottom. I deselect the current selection, and now we actually have an overview that works quite well, I think. Still, something that I don't like, and now I'm gonna go into full Bob Ross mode, are the colors. If I click one of the bubbles, I can format the chart, and in formatting there's a lot of options. You can just play through it. For example, in map style you can go for an aerial view. This shows you well, everything on a map, and you can go to your office and see, hey, where is it, by zooming in. We'll go for the road view, but I want to change specifically the bubbles. I want them slightly smaller, so we go to 0%, and I want to go to the data colors and select a specific color. I'll create a custom color, and that color is 55 ACEF. This is the baby blue that we use on the Analytics and HR website. If I deselect it, you see that the color matches quite well with the water. This color I also want for the males. So I click the table element, I click format, it's already there, and for the males I go for that same custom color. So I say 55 ACEF. I press enter, and then for the females I go for a different color that works well with our original color. And I already looked at different color schemes, and I thought, hey, gray works really well with light blue and orange. So if I click now back and I deselect the females, you see that we have the same color of blue in the different elements and a complementary color of orange that works quite well. And as I said, we're in full Bob Ross mode now. For the division per country, I want different colors per country. So I click show all, and for Canada I'll go for the baby blue. I think this is the color. And for the United States I go for the orange color. There we go, that looks quite good. And then for the formatting of the tables, I want to get rid of that green line in the tables. How you do that is go to table style, and in style I'll go for none. You have different styles, for example, minimal, bold headers, flashy rows, sparse. Now I want to go for a minimal style, because we have the same gray tints that we used before, and the styling of the tables is minimal. I click the next table, do the same, I say, hey, go for none, and there we go. We now changed, in a few seconds, the not so good looking original dashboard to a very good looking dashboard with different colors that fit well with each other, with something that basically looks good. The only thing that I'll change is the performance rating. The data label is now black. I wanted the same color blue and maybe slightly larger. There we go, because that just pops out. And now I'm quite satisfied with the dashboard. We can go to New York, click it and say, hey, performance rating is 3.10. We have 22 males, 9 females. And if we go to our favorite city, London, there we go, there it is on the map. This is the performance rating, and the males and the females are displayed visually. In our selection we only have people in Canada, and we have 4 healthcare representatives, 11 sales executives, 4 managers, etc. This is how you create quite an easy slice and dice dashboard. The only thing I'll do is right click the page, rename it to the Workforce Overview, and there we go. We have created a single report titled the Workforce Overview. And I can add new pages and create new elements. For example, I can work with income, for example. Put that in a table. Work with the average for employee IDs, for example. If I go to employee numbers, put it in the rows. The monthly income, I go for an average. And you see the income of different IDs, different employee IDs. So this way you can easily select an employee ID and say, hey, what is the salary that they receive? You can create different slices. And if I now, for example, we click slicer, we say go for the city name, we can say, hey, the people in Boston, give us a selection, and what are they paid, and what are they paid on average. The total is an average in this case. And the people in Dallas, how much are they paid? It gives you an overview of all the employee numbers, and maybe you also have access to employee names, so that makes it way more tangible, way more fun to play with, and you can see exactly how people are, what they are being paid. And you can add a lot of different extra elements. For example, the salary hike, percentage of salary hike, you just add it, you make it slightly larger, and you see how much extra people were paid in that specific time span, I think, which is the year before. So you can add different metrics and you can get and create a financial dashboard. You select different cities and you get a great overview of what their paid average and what the percentage salary hike is, which is now a total percentage salary hike, which is not the best way to do it. So when we go to subtotals, we can basically remove the subtotals and then we have a much better overview. Anyway, you can do a lot with these dashboards, and what I showed you now is only the beginning. There's a lot more you can do. I would say the best way to learn this is to play around with it. And the challenge that I'll give to you is try to create a dashboard of your own. Select relevant variables that you say, hey, this could be interesting, this would be valuable. And I would say, have at it, have fun, good luck playing around with the data,